Folks, it's my coach used to say it's go-to time. It's go time now.
Hello and welcome to the Kyle Olson Show. That new intro is from earlier this week, and I heard it and I thought, that is just so great, so inspirational. I played hockey growing up, and I can't count up all the times my coach said, "Now get out there, it's go-to time." So many. Actually, none. They never said that because it's not an expression. Joe Biden is just revealing again he's got problems. So that was Monday. Joe Biden told us it's go-to time. Fast forward 2 days, 2 whole days. And here's Joe Biden speaking to the National Association of Black Journalists.
Have you taken a cognitive test?
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying before you got in this program, if you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
What do you say to President Trump, who brags about his tests and makes your mental state an issue for voters?
Well, if he can't figure out the difference between an elephant and a lion, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Did you watch that? Look, come on, man. I know you're trying to goad me, but, I'm so forward-looking to have an opportunity to sit with the president or stand with the president in debates. There's going to be plenty of time. And by the way, as I joke with him, I shouldn't say it. I'm going to say something I probably shouldn't say. Anyway, I am very willing to let the American public judge my physical and mental my physical as well as my mental fitness.
Now, there's so much to analyze here. First, he asked a black reporter if he was tested for cocaine before he got his job and asked if he was a junkie. Who does that? I mean, really, who does that? Can you imagine if Donald Trump did that? And why is he so defensive and offended when somebody asks if he's taken a cognitive test? Don't you think any rational person would say, "No, I haven't done that"? And if it's no big deal, why not just do it, release it, and move on? Somebody, help me out. What am I missing? I mean, really, seriously, why not just do that and move on? Maybe there's a reason. Then he invited we, the American people, to judge his mental health for ourselves. If only he could say mental fitness. I mean, good Lord. Trump campaign, take that 15 seconds of video and put every fricking dime you have on it and get that on TV. Let voters see for themselves. He tries to say, judge my mental fitness, but he can't even spit the words out. It's Joe Biden, in his own words, or lack thereof. Why should Joe Biden be forced to take a cognitive assessment? Listen to this mashup America Rising put together.
Have you taken a cognitive test?
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? The rapidly rising I don't know. Why the hell would I take a test?
Battery about the size of this, the top of this, whatever the hell it is, podium.
All men and women created by you know the thing. Why the hell would I take a test?
Should we see in Donald tweets Donald Trump? We choose truth over facts.
To listen to this argument.
What's not to like about Vermont in terms of the beauty of it? And what a neat town. This is sort of a scenic, beautiful town. I am very willing to let the American public judge my physical and mental my physical as well as my mental fitness.
In a bit, I'm going to talk to Rebecca Mansour, my colleague at Breitbart News, who dug into the background of Biden vice presidential prospect Karen Bass. Remember in 2016 and after, Hillary Clinton, John Brennan, and all the others pushing the Russia hoax were trying to claim Donald Trump was a Russian asset? Of course you remember that. That's an interesting door to open, because if there was ever a Cuban asset in the United States government, it's Karen Bass. She's a congresswoman from Los Angeles. Prior to her life in politics, she was a member of the Venceramos Brigade. What's that, you might ask? Students for a Democratic Society, you remember, Bill Ayers, Bernadine Dorn, the other domestic terrorists who were bombing government buildings and killing their own activists in the process. Well, they started annual 6-week trips to Cuba in 1969, called them the Venceramos Brigades. They did it under the guise of building housing, cutting sugarcane to help the oppressed Cuban economy, which of course was America's fault, and improving relations with the Cuban people. Well, according to a Cuban intelligence defector in 1983, the Venceramos Brigade was a front for Cuban intel to worm its way into the United States. You know who went on one of those trips in 1973 and took a total of 8 long trips to Cuba? Karen Bass, the potential next vice president of the United States. After Breitbart and Tablet magazine brought attention to this, Bass was asked about her affection for Fidel Castro last weekend on Meet the Press. But before we play that clip, let that sink in. A potential vice president is asked about her affection for Fidel Castro.
And then you said something that I found interesting. You said you didn't quite realize how sensitive folks were in South Florida about this still.
No.
And,
go ahead.
And so I'm just curious, sort of, that you thought, well, Californians wouldn't mind that description, but it might offend Floridians. Forget that a minute.
Yeah.
It still seemed as if you had a soft view of Castro, if you will.
Yeah. And let me explain, too, because I think the use of the term comandante en jefe, what I meant by that is that clearly in Florida, that is a term that is endearing to him. I didn't see it that way. I was expressing condolences to the Cuban people, to the people in Cuba, not Cubans around the world. I don't think that is a toxic expression in California, but let me just say, Chuck, lesson learned. Wouldn't do that again. Talked immediately to my colleagues from Florida and realized that that was something that just shouldn't have been said.
So what she's referring to there is Cubans in Florida hate Fidel Castro. They're in Florida and not Cuba for a reason. They wanted freedom, and regardless of what Castro's revolution was supposedly about, it was about communism, control, oppression. According to the Venceramos principles, they believe in democratic centralism. Communism. That's what that means. And that is why Karen Bass went there 8 times in the 1970s. Incidentally, during the Cold War. And she realizes now, if she's Joe Biden's running mate, her history is a major liability to trying to win the all-important state of Florida. Here's more.
When you said you were expressing condolences to the Cuban people, there's many people who believe that the Castro regime in general was keeping them confined, was stifling their freedom, that it actually, getting rid of Castro might have been a celebration to some.
Yeah, maybe. And in the island, I think it's slightly different because, you know, they certainly didn't have the freedom and wouldn't have the freedom to celebrate that. So I think that it is just very important the way the Obama administration had opened up relations with Cuba. I think the best way to bring about change on the island is for us to have closer relations with the country that is 90 miles away.
She had closer relations with Castro in the 70s, as did other numerous American leftists. Did that get us anywhere?
Just very quickly, I'm curious of your reaction. You were called Communist Karen yesterday by the Trump campaign, and Senator Marco Rubio said you would be the most, essentially imply that there was nobody who was ever been considered for the vice presidency that was seen as so much of a Castro sympathizer. How do you react?
Well, one, don't consider myself a Castro sympathizer. Number two, my position on Cuba is really no different than the position of the Obama administration. As a matter of fact, I was honored to go to Cuba with President Obama. I went to Cuba with Secretary Kerry when we raised the flag. So there really isn't anything different. And then, frankly, I believe the Republicans have decided to brand the entire Democratic Party as socialists and communists. So I'm not surprised by Rubio's characterization of me or of a role I would play if I were on the ticket.
Here's Karen Bass the very same day on Fox News Sunday.
Just very quickly, I'm curious of your reaction. You were called Communist Karen yesterday by the Trump campaign, and Senator Marco Rubio said you would be the most, essentially imply that there was nobody who was ever been considered for the vice presidency that was seen as so much of a Castro sympathizer. How do you react?
Well, one, don't consider myself a Castro sympathizer. Number two, my position on Cuba is really no different than the position of the Obama administration. As a matter of fact, I was honored to go to Cuba with President Obama. I went to Cuba with Secretary Kerry when we raised the flag. So there really isn't anything different. And then, frankly, I believe the Republicans have decided to brand the entire Democratic Party as socialists and communists. So I'm not surprised by Rubio's characterization of me or of a role I would play if I were on the ticket.
Yes, that's the same canned answer she gave on Meet the Press. That's called damage control. And I can guarantee you, if Joe Biden picks Karen Bass to be his running mate, the future of America will have never been in more peril, because a Cuban asset will be one heartbeat away from the presidency. And let's be real. If Joe Biden somehow gets elected, Karen Bass would be the president. In America, it wouldn't end well. After all, as the Vince Ramos platform says, quote, political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. Coming up next, my colleague Rebecca Mansour gives me more details about Karen Bass. This is The Kyle Olson Show.